Hey, welcome to Martech Fest Dialogue. Today we're going to be talking about leading mindfully in a digital world. Instead of talking about all the technology and different things about Martech, AdTech, and everything in between, I think that now at time is very relevant talking about how to be okay with yourself, how to make yourself happy, and how you engage with other people, how you can lead and be led in a mindful way, when to say no, how to identify when you're stressed, when things are not working out, and just having curiosity and clarity and just being able to navigate and ride the wave. So I'm very happy to be here and thank you for joining. So what happens when you have your marketing strategy but you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel? I think that all the time that happens, you have all of these budgets and you invested in technology, you invested in services, you hire an agency, and you have the sales pitch process and everything goes well. And then when it's time to implement it, you have the change management, right? And on top of that, you have your personal life, social media, meetings, COVID-19, family, friends. You have to drive marketing efficiencies, and then also they are asking you to measure results. So everything is just overwhelming, and you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, right? So this is basically a complex situation, and complex situations require complex approaches, not simple ones. So I guess that the question is, how can we approach this? Well, let me share an example that is very close to my heart. I led the transformation and the adoption of web as a platform globally, going from local to global. In this case, I just want to share with you the difference between a complicated system and a complex system. So a complicated system, when you map out all the things about the CMS, the releases, all the operating model, the service catalog, all the technical implementations that you have to do. At the end, you just want to create performance content and empower your marketing teams just to fuel growth through performance content. That's a nice thing to do, but obviously it's extremely complicated just to get to that point, right? All of this has so many parts, interactions, a maturity level, and then you have so many different flavors. Sometimes you have more than one brand. Sometimes you have to migrate from different platforms to one CMS. You have to deal with the containers in Google Analytics, the GTM, whether you migrate that to one or several, whether you have the free version of Google Analytics or whether you have the paid version, Google 360, and then you can expand in the dimensions. So all of that is all the detail that you have to map out. Finally, it's something that is understandable and predictable. It's still complicated. On the other hand, assuming that you go through all the process, everything goes well, through the support phase, and then you have to start creating performance content. At the end, that was a brief. And then you have the local marketing teams. Maybe they don't use the CMS as a CMS. They still send a request to your IT team or to your technical developers, and there's no a clear adoption. So when you add the human factor and change management to the CMS deployment, it's a complex system. It's completely unpredictable. There is no way that you can have a clear route. This is when it becomes a complex system. Then you have a scope creep, you have problems with adoption, the governance component, maybe they don't want to use it in the right way, or they refuse to give you access, or they don't want to use the branding guidelines. Sometimes you have budget cuts and you have rotation, and then you have to retrain people. You still have to manage the agency. Then you have the stakeholder buy-in. Finally, you build all the websites, you build all the infrastructure, and sometimes they come back and they say hey, this is not what I was expecting. I wanted to see like a different website. I wanted to look like in a different way. I know that you were really hard. Sometimes they don't even acknowledge that. But I really want to see all of these bells and whistles and all of this functionality. And then it just becomes a complete chaos. It's unpredictable. And then you are at a point that you don't know what's happening. And that's transformation and also innovation and also the human factor. At the end, digital transformation is a lonely journey. You have to create your safety net. Probably local teams, there's going to be a lot of resistance to change. There's going to be a lot of people that they don't agree with the path that you're doing. Even if you know that performance content, having clear KPIs, having a clear operating model, having a clear service catalog is what is going to help your company just to fuel growth. The problem with this is like you're spending like 95% of your time on change management, and you're forgetting about like the performance content and all the cool thing that we have about marketing, right? So when we hit to this point, you basically need a break, and then you start wondering if the things are going to get better. And I guess that the answer is like probably not. Probably it's going to get more complicated, and I think that this is the new normal. I mean, we're working with virtual teams. Probably it's more difficult just to have a problem and just sit together drinking a coffee or just going to the pub and just trying to understand the changes. If you have global teams, I mean, definitely it's difficult just to fly, especially on these times, and just have like an in-person conversation. So no, most of the things, they have to be done virtually. At the end, we're individuals, and everything starts like adding up. Again, we have our personal life, we have our work component. We were promised, and we thought that creating in performance content and fueling growth, that was a clear path. But the change management and the human component is the thing to navigate. So it can get very overwhelming. It can be very difficult for the teams. It should be a better way to approach all of this. So here are my 3 mindfulness points to lead mindfully in a digital working world. Point number 1, disconnect to reconnect. Well, as the pandemic progresses and remote working becomes more accessible, we're just not stopping. Everything is getting connected, trying to run errands, trying to deal again like with performance, with marketing strategy, with transformation, calls, meetings, and everything gets overwhelming. And then at the end, if we zoom out, probably we're sitting in front of a computer in a room, and we barely have time to get coffee or just to go to the toilet, right? So sometimes you have to stop and you have to disconnect to reconnect. One of the things that is very important for me is probably going for a hike, or if you live in a city, you can just go to a park. Walking long distances is very healing. You stop thinking about things. You just like keep walking, keep flowing. Simple but very effective. The other component is like let go. There's a lot of things that we cannot control. There's a lot of things that we can control, and the things that we can control is how we react to all the situations and everything that is happening around us. So let it go, because you can be in control on the things that you can control, and that's the way that you react to the situations. The next one is my favorite. Be curious. Curiosity, I think that is everything that is going to help you connect with people, be empathetic, be able to listen to different people, even if you disagree with them, and that's going to get you puzzled on things that maybe you don't know. You have to research and follow through. And I think that curiosity is one of the main things that you have to be aware and you have to foster. If you have kids, I do. There's a book about Curious George. Curious George is always curious, obviously, and he's always going around different places and getting in trouble, right? There's only one a story about Curious George, and that's when he takes a job. And right when he takes a job, if you have a chance to read this book, he stopped being curious. He just gets really into his job and everything that he has to do. He gets overwhelmed, and then he stopped being curious. So the moral of the story is, if you have a job, if you have a stressful one, that we all do, step back, be curious, again, go for a hike, let go. You know the things that work better for you, but make sure that you don't lose curiosity. Tip number 2, the bus analogy. So imagine that your life is like a bus, and you are the driver of this bus. From the moment your life begins on the road of life, you begin to pick up passengers, and we all do. So passengers come from all of our unique life experiences and form constellations of feelings, beliefs, sensations, impulses, everything that you're accumulated in life, they just go to this bus. So these thoughts, these experiences that we keep during life, they are the passengers that tend to come into awareness whenever we need to move in the direction of something important to us. It's usually when we are under stress and when we have a new project, a new job, a change of some kind, and all the time when we're under stress. That's how we react, and we just go back to this reptile brain, and we go back to these behaviors that usually when we're in our normal, we behave in a different way. Especially in this time, we tend to be a little bit more stressed out and a little bit more snappy, and we just have to be aware of this. So let's talk about the scary passengers. The scary passengers can threaten you and want to be at the front of the bus. They just want to be in control of you, again, especially when you're stressed. And in the bus analogy, you have to stop the bus to struggle and fight with them. So that's when your feelings and your emotions and all of these negative components are in control of you. So you may try to avoid them, you may want to distract yourself, or hopefully throw them off the bus. But they're your inner states, you cannot get rid of them. However, while the bus is stopped, you are not moving in the direction that is important to you. You may also try to make deals with the passengers. You'll give in and do what they tell you to do if they agree to keep quiet in the back of the bus. This may feel a little bit easier than fighting them, but it means the passengers are in control of the direction of your bus and the strategy. By fighting them and struggling with the passengers or giving in to them, you, the driver, are not in control of your journey and your life, and it's likely that you are not heading in a direction that is important to you. But what if, even though these passengers look scary, sometimes nasty and threatening, they can take control unless you allow them to? So there can be different ways to respond to the passengers so that you can head in the right direction that is important. So we develop strategies to ensure that these passengers stay at the back of the bus and out of our awareness. So how all of these strategies take us off track? So strategies are actions and ways of thinking that protect us from the uncomfortable internal experiences, passengers. But as the road of life changes, or strategies become overused, they begin to be less effective. This is because we are reacting to the old programming, passengers, rather than the road itself. So, what are your passengers? And what objective facts trigger passengers' reaction in you? Remember, you cannot control a lot of things: budgets, missing deadlines, things that are outside of your control. The thing that you control is how you react to them and how you empower teams, how you work together with other people. So make sure you get the right people on the bus in the right seats. And remember, don't throw anyone under the bus. Number 3. Hercules meets Buddha. Hercules, simplify and control. Buddha, amplify and empower. You have to simplify with Hercules. Purpose, values, decision making, efficiency, performance, KPIs, governance, deadlines, and budgets are personality traits of Hercules. Hercules gets the best out of people when the situation is clear and structured, but Hercules finds it hard to make choices in ambiguity or to get people excited to take initiatives by themselves. Amplify with Buddha. These are informal processes, networks, collaboration, team building, innovation, long-term results, and coaching. Buddha gets the best out of people when the situation is unclear and unstructured, but Buddha finds it hard to give people clear direction and hard to get the people to do things urgently. So how do I balance these two characters within my leadership? With Hercules, you can get clarity, and with Buddha, you can get curiosity. With Hercules, be clear to simplify, drive alignment and coordination. With Buddha, be curious to amplify, encourage empowerment and opportunities. As a leader, be Hercules and Buddha. This means taking responsibility both for what you simplify and for what you amplify. As a team, empower Hercules and Buddha. Remain aligned on the Hercules principles to simplify. Engage with Buddha principles by collaborating and finding opportunities. Be curious about the people you work with and possibilities in the work. Be curious about what helps to enable each person and individual. Remember, you can lead mindfully in this digital world. This is it for me. Thank you so much. Bye.